Welcome back to episode 152 of the Disorganized Wizard Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm joined as always by Adam.
Hello.
And Cam.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournament stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
Hopefully.
I
feel like last week I missed out on a good discussion for getting better. Pretty sweet podcast with a guest Pro Tour competitor.
Yeah.
Andrew Burrows-Johnson.
Yeah, ABJ was on the cast last week, filling in for Adam to talk about a recap of Throne of Eldraine Limited from GP Montreal.
Yeah, you all did pretty well. You all cashed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, but...
Yeah, it was a fun weekend.
I wanted to talk about that at some point, though, because I want to post my pool at some point. I still have it together in the Discord, because my pool was like horrendous.
Yeah, it was.
But I missed my win in. Like, I lost my win in to go 5-3 or whatever it was. And I was live up until that third loss. And I was really proud of like how I built my sealed pool. And I wanted to talk about building my pool to be able to win, which was building it around Sir Conrad and reanimating Sir Conrad, because I had no bombs except for that. And so I went all in on just trying to win. And I played as many copies as I could of the 4-mana Mind Rot, make a 7-mana 4/5 creature. And I chose to draw every time I won the die roll, because my only way to win was to Mind Rot their last cards and then pray I also made all my land drops to 7. So I needed extra cards and I needed them to be down on cards, because I actually had I played red black with no bacon to a pie. I had a Reeve Soul as my removal, and then I played triple Scalding Cauldron, which is okay, but 3 of them is not great.
I'd play 3. That card's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but it's not ideal in red black.
Yeah.
Like a bacon and a pie would have been okay. Like, it was fine. But then, my pool just had no real sort of synergies. Like, I just was trying to cast the 5-mana reanimate on my Sir Conrad. Like, I was playing I think it's an okay card actually, but the 1-mana 1/1 Wily Goblin or whatever. The one that you can pay 2 and give it +2/+0.
Oh, yeah.
Something...
Red cap melee? No,
It's
red
like a
cap
Goblin
rider.
Yeah, it's like a Goblin
Something
Knight.
like this.
It's Weaselback Red Cap.
Yeah, Weaselback Red Cap. Yeah, I played a couple copies of it because I just literally needed playable cards. Like, it was grim out there. But it trades with X3, which I think is super important, as you guys mentioned on the show last week in this format. And I sort of took all the lessons I had, and I beat decks that were much, much better than mine throughout the day. And I was pretty proud, because I don't know that it's normally correct to draw. It's tough. But it was definitely correct to draw in my deck, because my deck was so bad that I needed to just use my 3 copies of Mind Rot, take their cards, and then pray to God I could pull ahead with card advantage. You know what I mean? Because I had no other way to win. And I was pretty happy with that. But you guys had a good run too.
Yeah, speaking of taking the draw, I had an interesting judge call at GP Montreal, and this was the first time a judge has called me. I didn't call the judge.
What?
I was in the middle of playing a match, and a judge came up. I guess he recognized me because the judge doing this was from Ottawa. Came up, like, tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, "Can I speak to you away from the table?" And then he asks, your round 3 opponent, when he was given the option, did he choose to draw? And I thought back. I'm like, yeah, he did. Every time he had the option, he did. He's like, okay, thank you. And scribbled something on a paper and went away. And my round 3 opponent was a friend of mine. So I asked him what was going on. And he's like, yeah, I said that I wanted to draw. And then while we were shuffling, I guess shuffling or sideboarding or whatever took so long that I put my deck down, and then we drew our hands, and I asked my opponent, are you keeping? And the guy's like, well, what do you mean? You're on the play. You have to decide first. And then they were arguing over what he said, and his opponent was claiming, you're only saying that you want to draw now because you looked at your hand, and so they were going back and checking, have you been saying this the whole day? And then he got to be on the draw.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, jumping back to this topic here, before we get into it, we've got a few things we want to talk about. This Sunday, it's finally almost here, the second DWC organizational, October 20th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our best of 3 standard tournament hosted by us on MTG Arena. If you haven't signed up yet, there's, I think, 30 people signed up right now, so we still have around just over 30 slots left. It's a free tournament to enter. Box of Throne of Eldraine for first place, and the Wizards Tower, great sponsor of this podcast, has donated store credit as well to the top 8.
Yeah, hold on. Did I hear that price correct for entry?
Yeah, you heard it correct, Adam.
Wow, it's free?
It's free.
And there's prizes?
And there's prizes.
Are you aware that is literally infinite EV? Asterisks, if you don't value your time.
Yeah.
If you do value your time, still very good EV.
Insane EV. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to be streaming the whole event over at our Twitch page, twitch.tv/Disorganized Wizard Club. I sent out Discord links for the tournament this morning. I'm going to send out some more on Saturday before the event gets going. So if you've signed up yet and you haven't checked your email, go check it out for a Discord link for the tournament chat. And yeah, if you haven't signed up yet and you're not doing anything on Sunday, check it out. The link to the tournament is in the description of this episode. It's also on our Twitter and Facebook page. Free standard tournament, MTG Arena.
What a sweet deal. Also, we'll be streaming the event and casting the event.
Yep.
On Twitch/Disorganized Wizard Club.
I just said that.
Oh,
You don't listen.
I was not listening.
Did you tell them that they need to submit a deck list before the event starts?
Yeah,
I
deck
thought
lists.
we've missed something.
Yeah, we missed
Deck lists are due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Deck lists are open for the event, so each round when you're paired, you'll be able to see your opponent's deck list on the Smash website. And also, on top of all of this, we're going to be holding 2 random draws for every participant of the tournament who's played at least one round in the event for a foil Vengevine and for a foil Steenvents, graciously donated to us by a listener of the podcast.
We're just handing out so much.
Man,
here.
this EV is insane. This
Can I
event
just
is
drop
nuts.
out of the podcast and play in this tournament?
No,
Ooh.
you're socially contractually bound.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was zoned out for a sec is I was actually messaging Dylan because I agreed to let him use my account because he doesn't have an arena account with cards.
Yeah.
and then just you talking about it
Yeah.
reminded me. So I was like, oh yeah, I got to tell him my account name. So he's going to be signing up as the Crumpler.
The Crumpler. It's sweet. It's going to be a fun tournament. We're really excited to cast it. It's going to be a good time. And yeah, check it out.
Is it the same time as the...
Well, so
Don't watch the
this
FC, watch
is this
us.
is the biggest tournament of the weekend, but there
Yeah.
also is another tournament this
some
weekend
Bush League amateur tournament you can
Yeah.
watch if you want.
somewhere down in
Backwater,
Long Beach.
California or something.
Yeah, Mythic Championship V or whatever.
Whatever that is. And
Yeah,
who
I
knows?
don't know.
Never heard of it. Why are they on the 5th?
It seems like it's worse value. So
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's I guess it's free, but
yeah, they got it there actually.
Yeah.
Dang.
Right, but for most people, this tournament is better EV because you can't win anything at MC5.
Wait, it's not free. You have to travel and pay
Yeah,
for a
that's
hotel.
true. And this one you can just play at home in your underwear.
Yeah, our tournament sounds way better actually.
Yeah. What a deal. First place for a box for a free tournament is actually wild. The fact that there's only 30 people signed up is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Do we just not tell enough people? Like, tell your friends if you're listening that they can just win a box.
No, that's not ludicrous. Half full before 10 minutes, prior to 10 minutes
Oh.
before the event. Like, these are Magic players.
Right, that's true.
They're
My
all going to
bad.
sign up tomorrow.
Well,
or
I mean, you have
Saturday.
to sign up on Saturday because deck lists are due.
Yeah.
But
I also assume that some people might have made the assumption that you had to submit a deck list when you signed up, and so they're waiting to decide what to play. But you don't actually have to do that. You can sign up and submit a deck list later before the tournament starts.
very true, very true. But yeah, so before we jump into some talk about standard leading into the Mythic Championship and the DWC organizational this weekend, we'll touch on the one big event that happened this past weekend in Indianapolis, the Modern SCG won by Blue Red Storm, which it's
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
So as much as I sort of dunk on linear strategies in Modern and sometimes negative about Modern, I love Storm, if only because one of my friends and consistent teammates in team events is a Storm only Modern player. And he's just undefeated for me in team events with Storm. So I think the deck's unbeatable. I just assume it is. But the format's pretty linear right now, and Storm is good at racing. And also, because everyone was sort of fearing, I think, the Urza Ascendancy deck and a few other popular decks in the format, we were sort of looking through the sideboards of all the other decks in the top 8.
There's not much.
They just can't do anything to stop Storm. Like, this is a free... against Titan, they have to have this sort of amulet in the opener. They can't race them in time.
Mm-hmm.
And Storm has ways they can deal with that kind of and get around it. They have options. I mean, they have Blood Moons in the sideboard too, which they can just ritual into an early Blood Moon, which can help them. They have options versus a lot of the other decks in the top 8, and the other decks in this top 8 didn't really have a chance, I don't know. I don't play Storm that often. I've borrowed it a few times, but if you ever want, you can go back and listen to the episode from our friend Ryan, who is a guest on the podcast, and he talks at length about Storm and sideboarding and how to play the deck and theories behind the deck. It's a good episode if you ever want to listen.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, eh?
It was a long time ago, but I
Yeah.
mean, the deck hasn't really changed. It's an older episode, but we have a guest who comes on and talks about it, and it's useful for Storm players. He's a really, really successful combo player, and he basically only plays combo. So if you want to check that out, I think it's a really good episode for understanding how to play the deck. But Storm just lined up in this top 8, playing against Burn,
Yeah.
Eldrazi. If Eldrazi even plays a Chalice from the sideboard, you don't care because they're gonna, you have Aria Flames out of your board.
Yeah, so I like this deck choice a lot for a couple of reasons. Looking at the breakdown of this tournament and the other decks, not only in the top 8, but of all the lists posted, there's a lot of very linear decks, a lot of big mana decks, and big mana decks specifically have a really hard time dealing with Storm. Not a very good matchup at all. There's been a lot of talk about Amulet Titan leading up to this event, and specifically Amulet Titan with Once Upon a Time, because that deck got a lot better. And notably, like you mentioned, Amulet Titan is not really well suited to fight Storm. It doesn't have many pieces that it can play to fight it effectively. And I mean, the good thing about Storm is you get access to Blood Moon and the sideboard, which is not really a card that many modern decks have been sideboarding lately at all.
Doesn't usually line up that well, and it's a little too. This is insane. 3 mana is too slow.
Yeah, and
but with Storm, it's not a turn 3 card.
No, so not only like Blood Moon is the end all, like be all of Amulet Titan, like that it completely destroys Amulet Titan, where decks like Tron can fight through it. But out of a deck like Storm, it buys you enough time that you just win right away when you cast it, essentially. And I like that he's adopted 4 Aria Flame for the sideboard to sidestep some of the common hate that people would bring in for a deck like this, like Chalice, like Rest in Peace. Because we saw, before the banning of Faithless Looting, we saw Blue-Red Phoenix picking up Aria Flames in the main deck to be able to sideboard Graveyard 8 and stuff and have another way to win outside of Arclight Phoenix. And this is obviously on paper just the perfect deck to adopt Aria Flame. And we haven't really seen many Storm decks actually pick it up, which has been pretty interesting until now.
Yeah, everyone's been too hype on new archetypes. No one's been revisiting the classics
to see how they line up, right? Versus, their old good, prey essentially, right? How can they, take advantage of these returning decks and how they shape in the meta. Yeah, I mean, Amulet Titan got 2nd and 3rd. That's a huge performance. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. That deck, as you said, got a lot better. But if you pull up their sideboard, it's laughable against Storm.
There's nothing.
2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Obstinate Baloth, a Ramunap Excavator, a Tireless Tracker, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 3 Dismember, 2 Force of Vigor, Cavernous Souls, Field of the Dead. None of them are the sort of game-breaking haymakers that you expect from modern sideboards. Sideboard slots in modern to be effective against decks or to justify boarding them in, they have to be gigantic swings. Sure, you can get some slight upgrades, you bring in your Dismembers and, you have to kill one of the creatures. The problem is they have enough.
Yeah.
And you're diluting your game plan to do it, which, might not line up well anyway. It's just, you don't really have anything that can answer them. So, none of them do really. None of these decks in the top 8 have sideboard cards that there's a couple. The best chance was the Celestial Eldrazi, which has Damping Spheres.
Yeah, the Eldrazi sideboard looks pretty well suited to fight Storm, but
I mean, if you don't roll it in the top 8, you don't roll it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Jund Shadow can Thoughtseize you out of the game, sure, but they have to be able to do that. That's probably the best deck as well. I think that's the best matchup in the top 8 because they have 4 Thoughtseize and Inquisitions.
Yeah. But what I didn't watch the top 8 of the event, but what I assume happened is they got paired against Titan in the top 4 and got smashed.
Yeah.
So,
but Storm, if it just gets the right matchups, like if it plays against Titan, it's going to do well. If it plays against a lot of these decks, Dredge, it doesn't care.
No.
It's not worried about taking 3 and 2 a few times.
Yeah.
It's going to kill you on turn 3 if you don't interact. Storm is also very consistent at what it does if it's not disrupted. You know what I mean? Like if it's a deck that's just left to Goldfish, it's going to kill you very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. So,
and the format right now seems to be one where you are sort of left to your own devices in a lot of ways and just people racing, right? Especially when formats like filled with Amulet Titan.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of the decks leading into this tournament that has had the most hype and most conversation around has been these Urza Ascendancy decks. Have you seen these? So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
notably, only one of them made in the top 8 of the event in the hands of Oliver Tomiko, who seems to just top 8 every single modern SCG that he plays,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when he top 8 the very first time when he was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
He's playing like a Sultai mid-range deck in Standard.
I just don't think it matters what this guy's plays in modern. He just top 8s every single event.
Yeah,
But
kid's super good.
yeah, this deck, I've seen versions just straight up paradoxical outcome combo without Jeskai Ascendancy. This one leaning on Ascendancy to be able to untap your Emeries and just kind of go infinite that way. But a lot of people were saying how busted this deck is and it's going to take over modern, but we really haven't seen much of that since. I mean, it won the team event the weekend before this, but
How many matches we don't know, though.
Yeah.
That's the problem again with team event results. But
it's really hard to say how good this deck is without actual.
I haven't played it, so I don't know. I do know that any deck that plays paradoxical outcome is probably busted.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it looks very strong. Paradoxical outcome. You can untap mana dorks multiple times in a turn, and you're playing 7 mocks. Like
It can kill you turn 2, theoretically,
Yeah.
with a nut draw.
Love to see Mirrodin Besieged finally seeing some play. That's a card we put on our top 10 of of Modern Horizons and hasn't seen any play until now. So
Hey, we top 8'd. We're on the board.
we did it. But
Does this put us to like a close to perfect every time our top 10, every top 10 pick we make is on a, it's
it
close.
makes a top 8.
Makes a top 8 at some point.
we're pretty close for Modern Horizons.
I would love to go back through those at some point when I have nothing better to do with my time and figure that out.
We should just next time keep the lists separate for the season and see our average.
Yeah.
Let's do that next time.
That'd be
And we can pick our, see how we do.
Just make like a mini bingo game out of it.
Because we don't pick dead ringers. That's
No.
the joke. Because
Yeah.
we didn't put Murderous Rider on our top 10 because it's obvious.
Yeah.
We don't need to.
I mean, we do sometimes, like, let's be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like we put
Oko was our number one.
Yeah, because it's just so absurd that we thought it would have impact across formats, which it has.
Which it has.
It's seen play in every single format.
In the sideboard of this Ascendancy deck, 3 copies.
That's why I was thinking about it. Yeah,
Seen play in Teamer Delver and Legacy.
it's pretty good there.
Yeah, all over Standard, of course. I've seen a bunch of just Sultai mid-range decks picking up Oko now. Some people streaming it. It actually looks insane.
Yeah,
So good.
people playing it in modern all over the place in different modern decks. In fact, you know what I mean?
I can't remember who tweeted it the other day. It was someone notable in the community saying that Oko is the best Planeswalker ever printed.
That seems
That's a stretch.
I don't know. It's
But I mean, it's close.
it's
maybe.
it's immediately across every format,
Yeah.
and it's
Lily and Jace are the other ones, right? Like those are the two.
Ren and 6 might be in
And
the
Ren
running.
and 6.
yeah. I mean, the top one has always really been Jace.
But yeah, there was a time I actually used to make the argument that Lily 3 was better, but it's close.
It's not a card we really see in modern anymore, eh?
Just Jund.
Yeah,
But there was a time where it was
yeah.
dominant in every format. In Standard, Legacy, and Modern, that card was just completely dominant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. But Oko's got to be top 5 now, right?
I 100% think so. Yeah,
Is Oko stronger than Teferi 3?
it's tough.
That's also close.
Yeah, right? That's what I mean. It's
It's
too early
tough.
to tell. It's too early to tell because Teferi 3 was also everywhere in Modern for a while.
Yeah,
And it still appears.
still is. Oko, I just feel like Oko is so much harder to deal with than Teferi 3.
Teferi gives you more time.
That's the all it does is plus.
Yeah.
It does. It's so much
The card
loyalty.
is really stupid.
Yeah. But that wraps up our modern talk. Let's hop over to some deck lists from the MC.
Wait,
So,
before we do this, can we talk about our bets for bannings?
oh man. Okay. So,
because of this.
Because we should talk
Expedited.
about this, and also you should for sure play in the DWC organizational because you might not have a chance to play some of the decks you like playing after Monday.
yeah. So the original ban announcement was partway through November originally, and it got moved up this past week to October 21st, the day after the DWC organizational
Yeah, that's coming
and the
Monday.
Mythic
I
Invitational.
guess.
So so they're really waiting to see how the organizational goes before they make a call on the.
Can't blame them. Got to see what we're up to.
It'll be the last word.
This is obviously everybody kind of freaked out when they saw this because why else would you push the ban announcement up unless you were actually going to ban something?
You just got to keep us on our toes.
Like you're not going to move it up if you're planning on no changes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So something's happening.
It's a bluff.
I would be shocked. So I think all of it, maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I would be surprised if Field of the Dead doesn't catch it.
I think the general consensus is that Field of the Dead is probably almost had its time in standard.
The fact that Field of the Dead is so good that people are willing to play Arboreal Grazer is egregious.
I agree. That card is awful.
Like, I cannot stand Grazer. In my arena account,
I don't play it.
In my arena account, I've had like import a Golos list, and then I'll rename them like Grazer sucks 3, and like take Grazers out for something else. Like,
I also think the card's unplayable, but Field of the Dead is a problem. Probably
is enough of a reward that people think Grazer is good. It's blinding them.
I think I disagree with you on this
Just
one.
play Beanstalk Giant. That card nuts.
Why not just play both?
There's no room.
Yeah, there is.
What else are you doing?
No, I'm trying to be greedy because I think you have to be greedy right now. Like the greedier deck wins. Like
Yeah, I really
greedier
like
deck list
Beanstalk.
wins.
Yeah.
And I've lost
I
plenty
just
of
don't want to play O3s because I don't want them in my deck to draw them late. Like,
Yeah,
I think it's bad in the mirrors.
lost plenty of mirrors where like you just end up with no lands in hand and like a Grazer or two because those were like some draw steps mid to late game, and you just get crumpled because
How many lands you playing?
like 28.
You can discard them to Fey Wishes, which is like
I think in Golos you want to be playing 29 or 30 lands.
Okay, sure, whatever. I just copied some some Bant lists that had Grazers in it, and there are games you lose because you draw Grazer
Well,
because it's so dead late
But
game.
there's
and the
games
Golos
you
mirrors
win.
go long.
There's games you win because you play it on turn 1 and then got to ramp up to 3 and 4 immediately, right?
yeah.
So-
Maybe like Golos mirrors. I'm not even sure how much that matters because like you're going to wrath each other, and so you have to kill. Like you're not killing them on turn 5.
Yeah, that's why I just don't think it matters either. It's just about not dying early, I think, is the only reason you would justify playing it. But I feel like the metagame is obviously so skewed that my list is that I've been playing are just like comically greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just way more top end. Like, just a heap of top end because it just feels like the only thing that matters anymore. It's just a bunch of Agent of Treacheries, a bunch of high end things to deal with their fields,
Yeah.
I'm playing multiple Chandras because early, if I can just ramp, I'll just start taking it up and just be like, well, I'll get you eventually because the game's going to go that long.
Yeah, that's not a bad plan for the mirror match.
Yeah. It's actually been really good. I have 3 Chandras in my 75 and I bring them in the mirrors and just try and start ticking up because eventually, I'll wrath them and then sure, you can start making zombies, but you're now on a horrible clock,
Yeah.
3 or 4 per turn. So just stuff like that, which I think is not fun. Somebody pointed out that it feels like EDH games, you know, with Golos mirrors.
Yeah, I could see that.
And they just these like battle cruiser style. But,
Man, I
like it, so whatever.
I cast a Chandra in a Golos mirror that I wished for, and then it immediately got Agent of Treachery. And then I started taking more than they did.
Yeah, those matchups are pretty swingy. But
Yeah, I've been up like Oko, like everything possible, Kenris, just all the greedy top end to try and reanimate my Agent of Treacheries when they die and whatnot.
yeah.
Just because, so I think Field's probably getting the axe. They won't ban Golos, right?
No, Golos isn't the problem.
Yeah.
It's Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they ban Golos.
No, Golos is too sweet of a card.
Yeah. Remember, I was like super hype on that card on our predictions list too.
Yeah.
I was like losing it was on our top 10.
Yeah, it was on
I
our
was like
top 10.
insistent about it because I thought that card was busto. Because I said it tutors and it tutors Field of the Dead, which was a card I also was like, this card nuts.
But yeah, like Golos doesn't do much of anything without Field of the Dead.
It draws cards at an expensive rate,
Yeah.
but at a very good rate if you're lucky. Like it's fine. It's just
I think
it's a fine card. It doesn't need to be banned.
This is a total side note too. I've also been experimenting with like Gates versions in slower matchups. I actually legit think they're better in the mirrors. I think Gates is better
What?
because of Guild Summit and Gates Ablaze are better.
Oh.
They're cheaper versions, and Gates Ablaze Guild Summit just lets you grind the mirror into dirt. You know what I mean? You just take advantage of way too much card advantage. You just need to have a way to shuffle back in. Otherwise, you're going to deck yourself. But
Just play Jace.
I was just playing a copy of what's it called?
Clear the Mind.
No, Finale.
Uh,
Blue Finale. Just one copy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I had another in the sideboard, so I can Fey for it if I'm going to mill myself.
Mhm.
And I actually think the Gates version, while worse against almost everything else, is actually better in the goalless mirrors, just because you have those options, which are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Like just being able, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time you also make zombies and draw cards, it's just too much for them to beat in the mirror. But it's incredibly greedy. But if
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you want to win mirrors, that's what you have to do. But you don't win against everything else. And unfortunately, there are other decks in the meta, which I guess what we're going to talk about for the MC. I
Yeah.
mean, not by much though.
There are other decks in the meta, but there's Golos is by far the biggest percent of this metagame. So we got all the deck lists pretty early for Mythic Championship V, and we got a metagame breakdown. And up atop that list is Bant Golos at 33.8%. But if you scroll a little bit down that list, you also have Golos Fires. You have one copy of 4-color Golos as well. So when it all comes together, you have closer to 50% of the metagame is Golos decks.
It's getting banned.
So, yeah, this is generally a sign of something's wrong. Last time we saw Standard have this kind of discrepancy in the metagame was Black-Red Aggro,
It wasn't 50%.
but
It was close though. It was like 30.
This Golos is
Yeah.
like slightly over 40. It's like 42, which I think is about what Red Black was.
yeah, maybe it was something like that. But yeah, it was
yeah,
horrendous, right? Standard was a nightmare. What is happening? We went like a decade without standard bannings, and the last couple of years has just been
yeah,
ever since Copter, right?
I wonder if it's just because they are experimenting with new design space. Like Copter was new design space. Some of the text on the gods was kind of new design space. Like there hadn't been creatures that inherently resilient before, or maybe there had. I'm misremembering them, but
and I mean, Copter was a new card type that they hadn't done before.
yeah, Field of the Dead, not really a new design. I guess they've done it similarly with cards like Valakut, triggers on certain numbers of lands, but maybe they not misinterpreted, but they misjudged how easy it would be to support, or who knows.
Yeah, I think that would have been pretty easy to miss in testing because, it came in right before Scapeshift was rotated out. And I think the general consensus around that card was it was printed to be good with Scapeshift. And they thought we would have a couple months of that and then it would be gone. But a little bit of an oversight when it comes to Golos, I think.
I said it wasn't going anywhere at rotation. When everyone was talking about all these new decks and what would happen in Standard, I was like, none of these decks matter.
Yeah.
Field of the Dead is still here, and Golos is still here.
Yeah, because when you look at Golos, it seems to me, the first time I saw it as not a, competitively playable standard card. It looks more like an EDH card on its surface, right? So I have a feeling that card might have been looked over.
I don't think they realized. Yeah, I don't think they did either.
There could also be a bunch of little things that they didn't realize would contribute as they had. Like you print this land that requires different land names in close proximity to a Ravnica set where you have a bunch of guild gates. And on top of guild gates, you also have a bunch of gain lands. Like there's so many. It's very easy to build a functional mana base with 28 unique lands.
Yeah.
Well, okay, 24 plus Field of the Dead. So it could have just been something so simple as that. Like they didn't think it would be so easy to support because they forgot how close Ravnica was or something. Who knows?
Yeah. And I mean, with this set, they definitely have pushed a lot of cards, off the top of my head. Oko, Once Upon a Time. Cards that, are seeing play across all formats. So, maybe they just thought other strategies would be much better and this wouldn't really see much play. But huge part of the metagame this tournament. Who knows what's going to happen on the 21st, but we're still going to talk about it. So we're going to roll through all of the different archetypes from the Mythic Championship this weekend, give our thoughts, talk about some choices, how we think it lines up versus the metagame. So kicking it off with the number one deck in the room, Bant Golos.
All right, first off, this list, we're looking at Carlos Ramau's list. It has 2 Arboreal Grazers, which I don't like, but that is less Arboreal Grazers than Seth Manfield and other lists, so I do like that.
Yeah, so big differences here between, we're looking at Carlos Ramirez and Seth Manfields because they are the two players who got buys to day 2 from winning their MPL splits. Big differences from the main deck right off the top is Ramal has a copy of Oko, and he has 3 Beanstalk Giants as opposed to Seth Manfield's 1. He has an extra Rem Cloak Giant as well. And
Seth has an extra time wipe, though, so they're about the same on 5-mana Wraths.
Yeah, everything else. Seth, being the smart man he is playing 29 lands, while Ramal's only playing 28, which I think is a mistake. And then their sideboards are, kind of similar. Seth Mansfield has some Tolsamir for the aggro decks that don't really exist in this format.
They're around enough to give you a problem, so I don't hate having that there. But your comment about the number of lands, I think 28 is fine in Carlos Ramal's list because he's down on Grazer and up on Beanstalk. If you only have 1 Beanstalk and you're playing more Grazers, then you need the extra lands.
So I don't agree, because I think with this deck, you just want to hit every single land drop until you hit turn 10. So you want to be playing 29 or 30 lands just by default. It's one thing I've noticed a lot in playing a lot of Golos on ladder is that I just always want to have a land in my hand until the late game. And then if I can hit a land drop turns 1 through 10, I don't feel like I can lose. And I would just want to max out on 29, 20, and 30 lands.
Yeah, but Beanstalk can make up for that as being a land drop is, right? And then also in the mirror, it's like a better late game.
Yeah, Beanstalk is a land. It's a land where Grazer isn't.
It is a land, but what I'm saying is I want to be ramping and also hitting my land drops is what I'm getting at. So I'm in favor of playing the extra lands. I think
I see what you're saying. I just if you're actually counting how many lands can be pulled out of the library, let's look at Seth's list, right? He's got 29, circuitous route, so let's call that 33. Growth Spiral doesn't really count. Once Upon a Time, let's say it could get a land, so we're at 37. Beanstalk is 38. That's it. Golos, 42. I think because of the Beanstalks, Carlos has a lot of those same things. He's down 1 land, but he's up 2 Beanstalk Giants, and he has every other effect. So he has more ways to get lands out of his library.
Yeah, I think it balances out, and the late game is better. I think the power level in the late game is worth it, because I think Beanstalk Giant actually matters in the mirrors quite a bit.
Yeah, I do. The one thing I do like about Ramal's list more than Seth Manfield is he's playing 3 Beanstalk Giant.
I think the card actually matters a lot in the mirrors.
Mm-hmm. I think, because it really, both these guys are playing Kenrith as well, which is another card that people have moved towards to.
If you're not playing this card, your list is wrong. Mm-hmm. I am at this point in playing, because this is the only deck I played for months now,
Yeah. There's a bunch of people that have bumped up to 2 copies of Kenrith in the main deck. Just another way to, go over the top of your Golos opponent. But
just another way to do everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are the reasons that. So the reasons to play Bant Golos are, or what you want to be doing in the mirrors is just, playing Agent of Treachery and bouncing it with Teferi and waiting for Kenrith. This is just all Kenrith decks, actually, no matter what the Golos version they're playing is you should think of Kenrith as a last thing you play, because, you don't want it to die, but it can also just theoretically one-shot people with haste.
Yeah.
When you make a bunch of lands, which is very, very important. It's a really powerful effect, but you can also start reanimating your Golos or your Agent of Treacheries. So it's really important to hold your Kenrith till late. I was a big fan of playing Shared Summons out of the sideboard. Big fan of no one playing this, but that card just wins games on the spot, because late game you just tutor Kenrith and an agent or whatever.
Yeah, I've seen Shared Summons.
It fires. It's in Fire's list. Yeah. It's normally not in anything else, but it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's about it. There's not really much to say. I'm sure you've played against this deck a billion times, but I don't know. I agree that you want to make your land drops every turn, but I would prefer the list that's playing more Beanstalk Giants, as I think they matter a lot.
Yeah.
But I also like the one of Oko. I think it's pretty good. I think that it can help you stop a Golos when it can be a problem if you don't have an answer. So having an answer to a Golos in the mirror can be very important. It also just gives you something to do to gain life against aggro matchups. I think it's pretty good. I'm a big fan of playing Oko in various Golos lists, because I often find that you're short on answers to opposing Goloses, and this can help a lot. Because you don't care about a 3-3.
No,
at all.
no.
But you definitely care,
about that activation.
But you care about that activation a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm Team Carlos on this one.
Yeah.
I think the card choices are just better.
So another thing I don't like out of his deck is his sideboard doesn't have any Ashioks, which is a big way to kind of cheese out the mirror.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's playing Knight of Autumn instead.
Yeah, I think Knight of Autumn is the standout card that I'm not entirely sure about.
I mean,
I could have seen this him just being him overestimating how many people would bring fires as compared to Bant.
Yeah, because Knight does line up in some matchups really, really well.
Yeah, it does. But
It can kill a Golos too, like worse going to worse.
Yeah, I would feel really unsafe leaving home without Ashiok in my sideboard right now.
I don't play it.
No,
I don't think you need it.
no.
I think
don't.
that, but I play way more high impact cards, so I just smash. Just don't think it necessary. You know, it's annoying when you get got because your hand doesn't line up, but I don't think it's that important actually in the mirrors.
All right, so moving on this list, we have the next biggest deck in the metagame is Simic Food, which it looks like I forgot to pull up. So let me find that.
I mean, yeah, this is the deck that Mangu's playing, right?
No.
Or he popularized it, is what I should say. Not at the MC, but he played it all the time, didn't he?
He might have.
Yeah, he was playing it a decent amount, I think, in preparation.
So the first person I saw play it was Brad Nelson at the very first fandom on release day.
Okay.
And then some other players picked it up. But notably this deck, something that a lot of the players have done for this tournament is bring 4 Disdainful Stroke in their main deck, which is a pretty good call if you're looking at this metagame breakdown right now.
Yeah, like Reed Duke's list has 4, a bunch of them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
This deck, by the way, for people listening, is just the green-blue deck similar to what Matt Nass top-aided, I think, the
Yeah.
Classic with a couple weeks ago. It's just like Gilded Goose, Hydroid Krasis, Questing Beast, Wicked Wolf, Oko Nissa.
Yeah, it's a pretty clean deck list. Nothing too fancy going on here, but I actually think that this deck would probably be the best deck of the format if Golos didn't exist. I think this deck's actually really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, green-blue are the best colors right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hydroid Krasis, Oko. What do you want? Those 2 cards are both just absurd.
Yeah.
Like, people act like Hydroid Krasis just isn't also in all of these decks.
Yeah, it's in all the Golos lists.
It's in every deck.
Mm-hmm.
Hydroid Krasis may be the consideration for a banning, but it won't be. But I'm saying that Hydroid Krasis actually may be the problem and been the problem. I actually had this conversation with Cam a few weeks ago walking back after the podcast. I was like, Hydroid Krasis is just everywhere and people are just cool with it. Because really, it's pretty fair. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
It is. Like, it's just, you have to put a bunch of mana into it. It's just a creature.
It's on the very efficient and very good side of fair, but fair.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it never feels like it's Hydroid Krasis that kills you. You're like, well, okay, kill it. And then you die to the 7 cards they drew. But, like it was like, I killed the Krasis. It was
Yeah.
huge. So you don't feel bad because they play a 10-10 and you're like, whoa, 10-10 and you kill it. And you think
Yeah.
the 10-10 mattered, but the 10-10 didn't matter.
Yeah, I guess.
But that's what this is. This is a Krasis deck, right? This deck doesn't exist without Krasis. Like, absolutely not. A lot of these decks don't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Crisis just lets you refuel from dumping all these mana dorks on the battlefield,
Mhm.
and plays extremely well with Nissa.
Yeah. Playing 4 Disdainful Stroke, though, I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, this
you're,
deck
you're
is
making a metagame call when you bring 4 Disdainful Stroke in your main deck, but I mean, when over 40% of the field is Golos, you're
but not just even Golos. Like, look at this. This deck revolves around large Crisis, which stroke hits. It's half of it. But a lot of the power in this deck is Nissa and 4-drops, Questing Beast and Wicked Wolf.
Yeah, so it's I actually think a pretty good call for this weekend, bringing 4 in your main deck. And, your biggest problem is the Golos matchup when it comes to this deck. Like, you have ways to win with a timely Disdainful Stroke, but, I mean, their late game is just so much better than yours.
You're so fair.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get enough damage in early, hopefully, that, like, your Questing Beast can get past zombies.
Yeah, like I imagine you're bringing in Lovestruck Beast out of the sideboard and hoping you can hit them once with it and try and kill them before they can kill you, which is, kind of the strategy you go with when you're playing another deck that we're going to talk about, Green-Black Adventures. You just really want to try and connect at least once with the Lovestruck Beast, and that's normally enough to be able to squeeze it out before they can kill you.
Like against Bant Golos, Oko also not bad as a clock. Like if you have Goose into 2-drop and then Oko, so you have like some food lying around, you can just start making 3/3s. Mm-hmm. Like Oko into Nissa is a lot of 3/3s.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Golos is a lock win, This deck has a lot of ways to grind them out. Yeah, Nissa, a huge crisis. They can make a bigger crisis than Golos can deal with if they don't have an answer for it. So they do have a lot of options. Like, it's not dead. Also, I think this deck probably has better early game against a lot of decks. Although I think it's actually particularly not good versus mono red. Because if you don't have Goose on the start, they're going to run you over.
Yeah.
You're too slow. Like, turn 4 is too slow. If you don't have a turn 1 Goose, I actually think you lose to aggro with this deck a lot of the times.
Yeah, it really depends how much food you can make, I think, like, if you have a good Oko draw. This deck, though, it lines up really well against all the mid-range decks in the format. Wicked Wolf, notably, is a real pain in the ass to deal with as a mid-range deck. It just kills everything. It's really hard to get off the board if you've been making any kind of food in the early turns. I think this deck's good, and if Field of the Day gets banned on Monday, I think this is one of the first decks you should be moving towards in the new format because it's super powerful.
Also, just one note, as Adam mentioned in the pre-show, I think, that we've long since had no creative deck names. This could have been called Blue, Green, Eggs, and Ham.
You're right,
we blew it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's so
Watson
boring
needs to shape
now.
that up.
Someone needs to hire us to name these decks.
Yeah, it's so boring nowadays. These have such sweet names, but they were alienating for players who weren't in on it, It's like, oh, come on.
Magic is already alien, just by its nature, alienating for people who aren't in on it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, oh, I don't know what this deck refers to, and I also don't know any of the cards in it. If it had been called something else, I would have watched.
Is it a May trigger?
All right. Next up on this list, at 8.8% of the metagame, we've got Green-Black Adventures. So I've been playing a crap ton of this deck.
Yeah, me too.
As well. It's super fun to play. There's a couple versions. The version that we're going to be talking about right now is Canister's List. The Green-Black Adventure deck is one of those ones that you can beat Golos, but it really requires you to have an aggressive start.
And you need a lot of moving pieces to come together.
Yeah.
It's a deck that is based on adventures with Edgewall, Innkeeper, and sort of its grindy strategy is Order of Midnight and start buying them back. And it has Questing Beast and Rankle, and it sort of can grind a lot of people out. Vivian and Nissa also help. But yeah, it's just essentially a green-black mid-range deck with just a high level of synergy, playing some otherwise underpowered cards, but with some high level of synergy. But I think they have a better matchup versus aggro than some of the other decks. Like a lot of aggro decks just can't beat Lovestruck Beast. You just make a 1/1 and then on turn 3 make a 5/5.
Yeah.
And aggro deck's just done. That's it. You can't beat a 3-mana 5/5. That thing's huge.
Yeah. This is an interesting choice for this weekend because like you mentioned, I think a lot has to go right for you to beat Golos. You can definitely beat Golos like 100%. But it's not the easiest matchup to win. But
if they time their wraths correctly, they will beat you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it comes down to, is playing around wraths and how you play around them and what you commit to the board and in what order. It's actually really complicated. I've played this so much of this deck too, and a different build that I like more, but versus Golos, I like it. I like the Knight version versus Golos a lot more. Yeah. Because you can play, I get to play like a dummy instead because you just have Midnight Reapers and you don't care if you get Wrath, you just rebuy your whole deck. But yeah, you got to be kind of careful and you got to thread the needle to beat Golos, but you definitely can. And then I also think this has just a strong matchup versus the rest of the field. I think that Green-Black Adventures is actually a pretty strong deck. Like there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I do really like this deck a lot. I'm just a little worried looking at this metagame breakdown that with how much Golos there is in the field that I'm not sure. You have ways to fight it. You have main deck Legion's End. You can kill them with Questing Beast, but I was really high on this deck when I started playing it, but the more and more I've played it, it doesn't win consistently enough against the best deck in the format, which has really kind of turned me off it.
Yeah, I mean, that's every single deck, though, is the problem, which is probably why it's facing a ban.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to win consistently, you have to play Golos. That's just how standard is right now, which is horrible. Again, I hate saying it, but probably in a really bad standard spot. But this deck is sweet. I think that the Knights version, which no one at this MC is playing, obviously, actually can beat Golos, but is worse against the field. Whereas this is better against the field. But the Knight version, which for those of you who don't know, I don't know why you would know, is playing Lucky Clovers and Smitten Swordmasters and all Knights adventures.
Yeah.
And what you can do against Golos is instead of having to attack, you just rebuy a bunch of things. If you have a couple Lucky Clovers with Order of Midnight, play out all your Knights, and then just kill them with Smitten Swordmaster because it drains them.
Yeah.
And it pops a bunch of times. Like, you can just combo kill them. Like, you don't need to have attack to beat Golos with that deck. Whereas this deck, if you fall behind and you don't have enough pressure and they wrath you, the game's over.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think the Knight Lucky Clover version is like Mimi, but it's actually better versus Golos. For sure. Because I beat Golos all the time with that version. But I don't win with this version versus Golos consistently. But Golgari Adventure wins against the field more consistently. Like,
I do agree there, yeah.
I think that you beat Bant Food easier. You beat Mardu Knights. Like, you beat all these random decks because the Knights version doesn't play as many copies of Lovestruck Beast. So the Green-Black Adventure version, though, that, Peter Goglowski's playing is, the standard version that most people are playing is just better against the field because you have these just generically more powerful cards as opposed to, Smitten Swordmaster, which is awful on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, Golos doesn't really kill you fast enough that you can't reassemble your pieces. It's pretty it's interesting how the deck lines up in the meta. Yeah, I agree with you that I would not play this. There's not a chance I would have registered this deck at this tournament versus Golos. I just don't think it wins consistently enough. And I think he's even accepted that by having, I think, quite a bit of sideboard cards in the deck for.
Yeah, you've got a decent amount of cards. You have an extra Legion's End, you have Ashioks, you have Davriels. I assume on the play you're probably bringing in Crawl Harpooner as well.
Yeah.
Start attacking, but that's Green Black Adventures. Moving up on this list, we have Bant Ramp at 7.4%. The deck coming out of the Czech house of Stanislav Sivka and Andrzej Strosky.
Yeah, I mean, you got to trust this deck.
I mean,
if it's coming from them,
the guys behind the Kethis combo deck from last standard.
I mean, this is already a known deck, though. This is just what you'd expect. But I like the addition of Agent of Treachery, which they normally didn't play in these ramp decks. But now I think they're realizing that, well, wait, we can just start taking their powerful threats and bouncing it with Teferi and sort of lock them out and keep replaying this. And I think that's what they're going for here.
Mm.
I also like that a lot of the power in their deck is in Planeswalkers. Like, they have 10 Planeswalkers because the Bant Golos lists struggle to answer Planeswalkers. It's not really a permanent type that they can do anything about.
Yeah.
And so like, they wrath you. If you've already played a Nissa, like, it doesn't matter. If you already have an Oko out, like, it doesn't matter. You just make 2/3/3s. And the Deputy of Detentions, while good generically, like, you can also bank until they've made enough zombies that you can deputy away the zombies and then pick it up with the fairy in case they make more. Like, this deck can line itself up to make Golos look silly.
Yeah, you're playing these cards like Agent and Deputy in the main deck because of Golos.
Yeah.
So I think they built this deck very much with Golos in mind, and you have a lot of cards in your sideboard to be able to fight as well. With Disdainful Strokes, you have Ashioks.
Yeah, and Golos doesn't actually answer early Planeswalkers very well.
No, they have a very hard time dealing with Planeswalkers.
Like, a fast Nissa will just kill them. Yeah. Like, I think Nissa is the answer for a lot of decks to be able to do well. Like, if you're looking to beat Golos decks right now in Standard, I think you need to be considering Nissa as a major centerpiece of any strategy that can beat that deck, because you make 3/3s and they have 2/2s. Like, that's really what it comes down to, and you can put them under pressure faster.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing Once Upon a Time to, increase the chances of you finding a 1-drop on turn 1, which can, I'm assuming your whole game plan here is to try and play the Nissa as early as possible. And you can definitely play it on turn 3 with certain draws in this deck. And I feel like if you're doing that on the play against Golos, they're going to have a real hard time beating you. So I like this deck as well. I think it looks pretty good for the weekend. I'm not sure how it lines up against the rest of the metagame, though.
That's my
the thing. But I think you can probably beat Golos a decent amount of the time with this deck.
I mean, I think even its matchups against the rest of the metagame, would be fine, right? Because like this is the style of mid-range deck that we've seen do well at the beginning of standard formats. Like it's not that far off what a lot of Bant Flash was doing like last format. It's not that far off other Bant mid-range decks we've seen people be successful with, or that I know of people have been successful with. Like our friend Hemsley was playing something similar to this. Like you just have generically powerful and flexible cards. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's good enough.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're a Hydroid, Krasis, Oko, Nissa deck, which are, 3 of the best cards in the format. So you're going to win games on the back of those cards alone all the time. So,
Yeah.
Next up on the list, we have another Golos deck at 8.4% of the metagame, Golos Fires. The main difference between this deck and the Bant Golos deck is you're playing red for Fires of Invention. You also have Clarions, and most of the Fires decks don't play a sideboard. They play a wish board with Fae of Wishes.
Yeah, so I've been playing this quite a bit. The last little while that I've been playing Standard on Arena, I've just been playing Fires lists. And I particularly liked that they have access to Clarion because people were trying to get aggressive to attack the other Golos lists. There were games I would have playing Bant Golos where like you just have some tap lines in the wrong spot and you die, or like Wrathing on turn 5 isn't quick enough, or you miss a second white source to time wipe or something on 5 and you die. Now, not saying that the mana and color requirements are particularly easier in this deck. They are if you have a Fires. But having access to Clarion was like super nice. And then in addition, if you're trying to play Golos Mirrors, you have more, well, this list has more Kenriths. They're playing 2. But you sort of get to do both. If you have a Fires out and a Kenrith, you get to use all your mana with Kenrith and cast 2 things. So I assume these were designed to, I guess, make more use of their resources in Golos Mirrors while also shoring up aggro. So it's an interesting proof of concept. I'm not sure if it's actually better by the decks registered. It seems most people think it's not.
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp of it's not. I think you win game 1 of the Bant Golos against Bant Golos most of the time, but I think having access to a sideboard gives Bant Golos the edge in games 2
so
and
that's
3.
what I found, is that their sideboard is better than your deck, which is the same basically. And so when I was playing this, that was actually one of the first changes I made, is I think people are going too all in on this Wish sideboard. Like there's too many one-ofs. Like I never really wanted to get a Nicol Bolas. I never really wanted to get like various other, like a Prison Realm. I'm not going to go get a Prison Realm. If I have that many lands, I'll go get like something else. And so what I found is that I trimmed down on the Wish package so that I could sideboard a bit more, especially in matchups where like I want to take out my Clarions. You can't. You don't really have enough to bring in some of these lists. So you're just stuck with Clarions in matchups you don't want them. And I also don't understand why people are so all in on their Wish package being all one-ofs. What if I want to wish for a second Casualties of War?
Yeah, I don't know.
So like...
Yeah, you usually want multiple in the mirror.
Right, exactly. But people are only playing one. So the version I've been playing online, I trimmed some of the cards that I found I wasn't wishing for. I put in a Finale of Revelation, because again, if you just have a bunch of mana late game, you can wish for that and draw 12, shuffle your library in, and just be wildly ahead forever. I went up to 3 Casualties of War in the board, so that for 2 reasons. So that in game 1s, I could wish for multiple casualties if the game asked for it. And so that I also added some extra black sources to my mana base, so that in the mirror and stuff, like if your turn is cast Wish, Casualties of War, you've really only done one thing. So I will just board in 2 Casualties of War and leave 1 in the board in matchups where I want them, because if I naturally draw them, I can Casualties and do something else. And so it just allows you to actually sideboard somewhat while still having a Wish package of cards that I actually wished for.
Yeah, I think I would like that approach a lot more than what's going on here in Autumn Chat's list. I think the thing is, Golos isn't the entire metagame. I mean, there's over half of the room isn't playing Golos. So as much as you have an edge in game 1, I think your sideboard's a lot more important over the course of the tournament.
And I think Fires Golos can eventually be built, if it doesn't get banned, to have a sideboard and have a good game 1. Like I think the best of both worlds can be found here in this archetype. I just don't think people have considered that or have tried, or I don't know why people insist on...
I have a deck list for you, Cameron.
Like, why is this Chance for Glory here? Like, I get it, but how often are you actually wishing for Chance for Glory?
Never. It's just win more. It's terrible.
Right, exactly.
I'm also already down to 2 Fae of Wishes. I don't play the full 4. so that I can actually have a real sideboard.
Yeah.
And it's way better. My deck list nuts. I'll send it to you later.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. It's like, yeah, but
It's just all the things you're complaining about fixed.
yeah, exactly. Like this deck is powerful and I understand the appeal, but people are memeing too hard.
Yep.
I think I agree with you. Next up, a deck I think a lot of people are bringing to try and prey on Golos is green-red aggro. I've heard a lot of talk that this deck smashes Golos. I don't know if that's true or not, but you're playing Quest and Beast, you're playing aggressive creatures, trying to get them dead quickly. Embercleave goes over the top of them really well.
The card is awesome.
That card is so awesome, man. Collision Colossus as well allows you to push damage. We're looking at Javier Dominguez, current world champion. This guy, smart guy.
I mean, there's not really much we can say about this deck, though. I mean, it's just green red stompy. You know, this feels like very similar to the green red stompy deck from last season.
I do find it kind of entertaining that, last season there was sort of this looming threat of Super Friends decks that were sort of very powerful. Kind of a lot of people were playing them. Now there's this threat of Golos decks that have very powerful late games. A lot of people are playing them. And in every format, tried and true, someone just goes, what if we attack them? What if I play creatures and attack?
What if?
If I do that fast enough, sometimes they die.
What if I just play 30 creatures, most of which have haste, and attack?
Yeah.
I mean, it works.
This is just a burn deck. Like Gruul Spellbreaker, 4 damage burn. Gargan Hellkite, 4 damage burn. Questing Beast, 4 damage burn. Yeah. And sometimes they draw an extra burn spell if they stay alive.
But think, you could be playing mono red and slaying fire people. That card?
Yeah, slaying fire pretty good.
Yeah. That card nuts.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking to beat up on Golos, I think this is a good place to be. 4 Bone Crusher Giant, you love to see that. I'm really rooting for him here.
I don't think this deck does well.
No?
I don't think it's good, but that's me. My experience playing against the green red decks has not been, it's just been laughable. They just get wrathed at an awkward time. They have no way to keep up in the late game. They have no way to accrue any advantage. So if you're just able to stabilize, you can't lose. Yeah,
this deck has no plan B. If you're at any respectable life total and they can't just draw a haste creature and kill you, you're probably fine.
But it depends on if they get paired against the smart Golos players playing multiple Beanstalk Giants instead of one. Because that card matters a lot in these matchups if you need it late to block things like Questing Beast. So
I feel I would like this deck a lot more if you were playing Domri and Sarkhan. Because I actually think one of the best ways to beat Golos right now is Sarkhan, and not enough people are playing that card.
Yeah, as we discussed, they struggle to deal with Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
I guess that's something I meant to mention
Sarkhan
as well.
Is good, yeah.
In the Fires list, is that the Fires lists can deal with Planeswalkers, which is nice.
Yeah, I really think that green red would just be a lot better off if you're trying to kill him with Sarkhan and Domri. There's been a Teamer Planeswalker deck floating around that just plays 4 Royal Scions, 4 Okos. You have Wicked Wolf and Questing Beast as your 4 drops, and then Sarkhan and Skargan Hellguide up top. And I played it a bit on ladder, and I beat every Golos opponent I played against.
Oh,
so you just play your Sarkhan, plus it immediately attack them with 8 with your 2 other Planeswalkers
and then just
play.
Do it again.
Yeah. The Wrath doesn't matter. They can't deal with it.
Yeah, that seems really good.
Sarkhan Domri, also a sweet combo because all your dragons are 5 power.
Yeah.
You need 1 less attack.
Mm-hmm. It's, I mean, we haven't really seen any decks right up until this point with Sarkhan in it, and I actually think it's the best way to fight Golos right now, and no one's doing it. Not enough people are doing it anyway. Yeah. So,
but if I put Embercleave on my Sarkhan, it falls off, and then I got to pay again. So I don't know if that's.
You don't have to tap 5 mana if you just
swap the Embercleave for
if you just
Sarkhan.
kill them with Embercleave the turn before. So maybe they're onto something. I don't know. Next up on the list, we have another Bant deck. This one, Andrea Mengucci's Bant food list, pretty close to the Bant ramp deck that we talked about earlier, Sifka's list. Main difference being Sifka was playing a Boreal Grazer. This list is playing Leafkin Druid. All the other mana dorks are the same.
There's no Growth Spiral in this list, whereas the previous one had 2, I believe.
Yeah. Well, this is just the Simic food deck, but with
Deputy Retention.
Yeah,
Deputy Retention.
you maxed out on Deputy in the main deck, and you have your Questing Beast, your Wicked Wolves, and then you have Oko Nissa.
Yeah, this is the one I was talking about where I was saying he was playing the food deck, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you took this deck, swapped out the deputies for disdainful strokes, you basically have the Simic Food deck.
Yeah, the one that Rick
Yeah.
Duke is playing and other
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I mean, the difference here is just deputy, answers Golos and, after the fact, at least. It's a way to clean up the 2/2s. Whereas the disdainful strokes are trying to catch it before they can even get going. So it just depends on how you think you're going to draw out. So I think this is the safer choice. I think the ban choice with deputies is the safer option.
I agree with you. Yeah.
But that's about it.
Deputy also useful in a wider variety of matchups than Disdainful Stroke if you do happen to play against like Mardu Knights, as we're going to talk about, or Mono Red or something. Then
Yeah. Maniac for sure. I mean, don't be fooled though. You're playing for Disdainful Stroke in your sideboard here. So
yeah, I mean, sure.
you still got him, but I do like this deck a lot more for the reasons you mentioned. Deputy of Detention in the main deck. It's another one of those decks that you're really trying to tackle Golos, but
Yeah, I mean, every deck is trying to tackle Golos in its own way.
moving up, this deck, Mardu Knights. Looking at Ben Stark's list, this one is aggro. You're really trying to, there's two ways you attack Golos. You're either going under or you're trying to go over. And this one's going way under. You're playing a really greedy mana base, playing a bunch of 1-drops, 16 1-drops. It's trying to get him dead.
Yeah.
I mean, this deck's sweet. The power level on this deck is nuts. If it draws really well, this deck can smash. This is a deck that you're playing. I like this choice actually a lot. I think people have this tendency to look at this deck list and go like, oh, but it's fail state. Yeah, but I mean, you got to run hotter than the sun to win tournaments like this if you're just going to not register the best deck in the format. And this is a deck that, if it runs hot, it's just going to go 1-drop, 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 Embercleave you, and the game's over before they even cast a spell.
Yeah, this is definitely the best Embercleave deck in the format, I think.
Yeah, it's up there for sure.
And it's a weird one though, because I think it's a lot better suited to fight the Bankolos decks than it is the Fires decks. Because
Go off Clarion.
Yeah, that's why.
Sure.
That's one of the draws of
3
playing
Midnight
Fires.
Reapers, so
yeah, you can fight through it for sure.
and Embercleave actually goes late pretty well. Card's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Acclaimed Contender finds Embercleave, right? Just so I'm clear on this.
Um,
Can you hover over it
Yeah,
for me, Cody?
yes, it does. It gets equipments.
Right?
Yeah,
yeah, Knight, Aura, or Equipment.
Yeah, I know it gets another night. I just couldn't remember. I had one in a draft last night.
yeah. It's an interesting choice. I think only a couple people picked it for the weekend.
I played against a Red-White Knights list online. That was pretty impressive. Like, just Fervent Champion and Inspiring Veteran, like, really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Adding in the black for a bit of utility out of the sideboard and like the extra 1-drop in Knight of the Evan Legion is fine. Like, you're already being greedy. You already know that you're not going to win if the game goes late. So, yeah, might as well try and high roll, as Adam said.
Yeah. I really like the Rotting Regisaur plan out of the sideboard. Just trying to cheese him out immediately with an Embercleave on that guy. It's a lot of damage.
No, this deck's sweet. I like it a lot.
Tectonic Rift as well. I lost. That's what killed me out of Red-White Knights, was they blew up my field, which didn't matter, and my zombies couldn't block, which did matter.
Yeah, I've seen people play it in mirrors too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In Golos mirrors.
Yeah.
As a way to just kill you on the spot.
What does look out of place for me in this sideboard is we haven't talked about that many black-based decks. I guess Green-Black Adventure you're worried about, but these Spectre Shrieks, 4 Spectre Shrieks seems like a lot to bring to this tournament.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I would think this would be a really good drill bit deck. And
Yeah.
I can't imagine why you would want Spectre Shriek over that.
Yeah, I would rather have Drill Build as well.
100%, right?
I think maybe they just forgot.
Because even the black deck, like that it might be good against, Green-Black Adventures, you're worried about the green cards brickwalling you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're playing 16 1-drops though, so you're connecting.
Yeah.
You're casting Drill Bit for 1 mana, I would say the majority of the time. So what matchup are you bringing? Are you bringing in Spectre Shriek versus Golos?
No.
No.
But like you kind of have to if you have it in your sideboard over Drill Bit. What else are Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know.
It's a weird deck choice.
It's a weird one for me. I don't know.
But otherwise, I like this list. You know what I mean? I think there are some issues, but I like it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe that is the thing. They're just not trying to go for discard against Golos. They're just trying to get under them with damage, and that you're playing this for the adventure deck.
Yeah.
Really?
Even there,
Where
I
would
still
be
think
better?
Drill Bit's better, but yeah,
I don't know.
who knows?
next up on the list, we have another adventure deck sitting at 4.4% of the metagame, Selesnya Adventures.
2 people or whatever, 3 people playing it.
Yeah, I hate this deck.
So there was sort of that weekend a while ago where Golos dominated the main event at SCG, but the Classic had a bunch of adventure lists. That was sort of where Green-Black Adventure was born, and there was some Green-White Adventure. I played some of the Green-Black and liked it. I haven't tried this deck at all, but you guys have played some of it, right?
Yeah. It's bad.
I also think it's not very good. I just think the Green-Black versions are better. I think they're safer, way safer. I think that this can win in different ways, though. Like, Venerated Loxodon is a nuts card. I'll give the deck that. It's playing some busto cards.
Yeah.
Like, people again, forgot about old Venerated Loxodon. That guy, huge, makes everything else huge. But I'm just not buying a lot of the card choices that people play in this deck. I just don't think they're very good. I think there's a lot of ugly, underpowered cards that don't synergize well. But the Green-Black one has them as well. I don't know. Like, the adventure decks are weird. They're cool, though. Like, they're definitely cool. They feel like the tokens decks, essentially, from last season, where eventually no one will play them because they're just all so underpowered.
Mm-hmm.
But that's essentially all I have to say about these decks, really.
Yeah, I mean, I like the black deck specifically over this one because the black removal is just so much better. And you just don't have removal in this deck. You're just trying to, kill them quickly. And I think the reach you get from playing the black cards is just so much better than what the white's giving you here, because you're just trying to like go wide or, cheese them out by jumping a 5/5 over their zombies. But I mean, outside of that, like, I feel like you're going to build up a board, you're going to Flower Flourish, Band's going to block with their 10 zombies, and then they're just going to make 8 more in the next turn, and you're just still going to die. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it has a better matchup against Golos than the Green-Black version just because of what you said. It can jump things, or it can have faster starts, perhaps with a Loxodon. But I don't know. I haven't played it. But if you're only worried about Golos and this is slightly better there, then I could see picking this.
We have our last Golos deck of the event, all by itself, 4-color Golos in the hands of Kenji Higashira. The only difference between this and Bant Golos is he's playing Deafening Clarion in the main deck. Everything else is the exact same.
Yeah, so I guess this is what you arrive at if you think that Bant Golos is better, but you miss the Deafening Clarions and you think people are going to try and attack you with aggressive decks, so you play this because the mana can support it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
but
sense.
Yeah, you have the same creature base. He's playing 3 Okos instead of any Teferis, which I think you'd want at least one Teferi in your main deck if you're a Golos player, but, he's going towards Oko. We've seen people succeed with that in the past couple weeks as well. I'm still not really sure what's better, but I usually lean towards Teferi.
I think in the mirror, Teferi's better. Everywhere else, Oko's better. In the mirror, Teferi being able to bounce your Agent of Treachery is like king. It's just one of the best possible lines you can take in the mirrors. Like, you should save your Teferis almost. That's how busted that line is in the mirror. But Oko's better versus the other things, I think. Mm-hmm. Although in this metagame, if people are playing forward Disdainful Stroke main, Teferi looks a little better. But Oko, I think, against those mid-range decks is just better. Like, against Wicked Wolf decks, Oko's better.
Yeah.
Against the mirror, Teferi's better.
Okay.
And given that the entire field is almost Golos, well, 40%, let's say.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like, it's close. It's very close. Like, it's just, I don't think that it matters that much. Like, you know what I mean? It's tough to say because you don't know what you're going to get paired against for sure.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Moving up down to these last few lists are the lists with only one person playing them in the field. We have
4-color Golos was always also only one,
Yeah.
just Kenji.
Yeah, Savich brought Jeskai Fires. This deck, a lot of people were boasting that this deck had a good Golos matchup at the start when it first started popping into the metagame, because you have a bit of a combo kill with the Cavaliers. This deck, though, not playing any Cavaliers. Your creature base is 2 Kenrith and 4 Fae of Wishes. And you have crazy you have 14 one-ofs in your sideboard, or 13 one-ofs in your sideboard.
Yeah, so I have the same issues with that as I did out of the Golos Fires list, but if you claim that this has a good Golos matchup, I mean, I haven't played it, but I could believe it just because all your threats are planeswalkers, which they struggle with. So yeah, I don't
Here's
know.
the problem with this deck. It's playing one Drawn from Dreams main, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Fae of Wishes and not another Drawn from Dreams in the sideboard. Are you kidding me? Why?
Oh.
Why? Like, the Drawn from Dreams is one of the best cards you can play with Fires of Invention.
Yeah, that there's no huge draw spell.
Like,
Yeah.
Narset is not enough. I've played this deck a ton. Narset is not enough.
And you don't
will
have the
get-
crisis.
You will get ground out. You
Mhm.
will get ground out and lose because you have to discard cards to Fae of Wishes. There's all these awkward things where you just don't have the card advantage to compete. You draw fires later. Like, you have a bunch of dead cards in a lot of matchups, and you need to sideboard or wish for cards in your sideboard. You need multiple drawn from Dreams to enable you to play out all your planeswalkers and kill them in this sort of weird planeswalker combo. I think that's the number one mistake in this deck list.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I think it's actually fine, but I think it's medium. I don't think it's on the power level. I say this with people will get to my predictions of what I think the top 4 will be, but I just think it's easy to get ground out, actually.
yeah. I just don't like your Fires deck, but you don't have that much in the way of, heavy top end. Like, I liked the Jeskai Fires deck that were playing 8 Cavaliers, so you could just go Cavalier, give them haste, like hit you for a crap ton.
Yeah.
This, you don't have that angle.
And you only have 2 time wipes.
Yeah, and I don't like leaning on the Fae of Wish sideboard package to get all your power out of.
Not when you don't have heavy card advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it if you have forms of card advantage, but a lot of the times when you play Jeskai Fires, what happens is you play out your Teferi and you have to minus just to draw cards because you're so behind.
Yeah.
And you don't accrue the same advantage without having planeswalkers out. I also don't think Teferi and Narset are actually that good as planeswalkers in the deck. That's the other problem, that I think the deck wants some other form of planeswalker that actually accrues serious advantage, because Narset and Teferi 3 actually don't play well with fires in the same way as other planeswalkers because their tick ups aren't that impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Narset doesn't have one, but
Yeah.
you need planeswalkers that accrue value for longer they're on the battlefield, and you need more of them. And this deck feels underpowered in that regard. And I played this deck a lot, and that's one of the fundamental issues, is that it's not playing something like Oko or whatever that can accrue value over time.
Yeah.
It's a huge flaw in the deck. The deck is very good when it does what it's doing, but it's just underpowered in the face of Golos is like essentially what I'm getting at. It can beat a lot of other decks, though.
Yeah.
This deck's probably better against the field than it claims to be better against Golos. Like, this deck going to beat Knights every time. Ben Stark gets played against Savits, it's over.
Yeah, I feel like any deck that's packing 4 Clarion and
2 time wipe.
and time wipes, you're gonna have a real hard time.
He beats Green Black Adventures. He beats everything but Golos easily, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What does this deck lose to? It beats Simic Food.
I don't know if it beats green black, because green black actually has a lot of card advantage in it.
If they assemble the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, if they get Wrath, then... But I mean, I could see green black grinding this out. I could also see this deck sort of snowballing before green black can do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's close. Command the Dreadhorde also helps you a lot versus a lot of those decks, right, out of the
Mhm.
sideboard. There's a lot of sideboard wish cards that make you just beat on all these other decks very easily, but I actually don't buy that you have a good Golos matchup. I just don't believe it. But I think it's the exact opposite. I think you have an okay matchup versus everything else. But I just don't believe that you have a good Golos matchup. I think it's okay. I don't believe anything has a good Golos matchup.
Yeah. I mean, the games you're going to win is when your Narset and Teferi sit around on the board and you get to hit them for 12 with a Sarkhan.
Right.
That's it. We've also got Jun Midrange, brought by Caleb D. This deck is a pile. It's a pile of cards.
It's
Growth Chamber Guardian, hate it.
basically green-red, the green-red Stompy list we talked about, but with some black cards. Legion's End to help you with some zombies, perhaps. Rotting Regisaur, because it's good with Embercleave.
Yeah. I mean, you're a good Embercleave deck, I'll give it that, but you can't cast it as quickly as something like the Knights deck can.
This is just a bigger mid-range Stompy deck.
Yeah.
It's fine. I think it's actually fine in that its draws are really impactful. Like, it doesn't need card advantage because all its cards are bombs. It's just a card where everything is a bomb. This is like the truest mid-range deck.
Yeah, its 2-drops can scale late. Like a Growth Chamber Guardian late is more Growth Chamber Guardians. Rick Smetty Reveler late is 3 cards.
Mhm.
And then it's all just
And everything
bombs.
else is good.
Yeah. Like, I think it's actually fine. It's like surprisingly probably okay. But the problem is that this is a deck where if you're consistently on the draw, you just lose. If you lose
Yeah.
the die roll, you lose.
You have no 1-drops. You have no way to gain a mana advantage. I feel like all the decks that are going Gilded Goose or Grazer into 3-mana Planeswalkers on turn 2, you're gonna just fall a little too far behind.
Maybe, but your cards are also just worth more. Like, this is what a
Yeah.
mid-range deck is.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
It's just that mid-range, I think, loses to Golos, but, it's everything else. Maybe you have a shot.
They play their Planeswalker. You questing beast, kill the Planeswalker. They have dorks and lands, and maybe they can't find gas. You can just
like
kill
it
them.
happens a lot. This is how mid-range decks win, right? Like, this is the prototypical mid-range deck. I don't know. It's like pretty clunky, but I think it's actually like fine.
If you're playing 4 Rotting Regisaur, though, like, I'm a bit curious why you didn't find room for like 1 Great Henge just to give you some card advantage. It plays very well with Growth Chamber Guardian.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about this list.
Yeah. I don't know about Henge, but I imagine you're just trying to kill them before doing any of that would matter, right?
Yeah, sure, but
why
1 in case, things get hairy and you need to draw some cards.
Well, you're trying to kill them before things get hairy is what I'm saying.
Right, but plan A's don't always work.
Yeah, I feel like if your plan A and doesn't work in this deck, you're just dead.
Right, because you don't have Henge. I'm just curious why it wasn't included. I'm sure it was a card that he thought about.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure how reliable this mana base is either, but
Yeah, you got 4 Fabled Passage, you're fine.
Yeah, and everything's like slower. You don't need it. Your mana early. Like, it's probably fine. It's probably actually completely fine.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issues here.
all right. We've got Mono Red Cavalcade up next in the hands of Li Chen.
I'm not sure about this mana base.
This mana base is clean.
This list is awesome.
The only person to bring Mono Red in a field of Golos and Field of the Dead, I think you're looking pretty good.
I actually think this is a sweet choice. Also, I'm never going to badmouth LST in my life, so...
He has it buy into day 2, so he has a huge leg up on the whole field.
Yeah, hope he wins the whole thing. Love this guy.
The only problem I have with Mono Red is that you can't beat anything in the metagame aside from Golos.
Hope he yells free Hong Kong and gets banned too.
I mean, I think...
I'm just kidding. Because, he probably will. Done it before.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, other things in the metagame, like having a Cavalcade out and a Torbrand goes a long way. Like, they have to keep your board small.
Or
like,
they're dead.
at all costs. And I don't know how many other decks, because they're sort of trimming on removal outside of like a couple Legion's End, because it's so bad against Golos, how many other decks in the metagame can actually do that? Like, what, you play against green-black and they have to take 2 to Murderous Rider to kill one of your guys for 3 mana so that they take 3 less from it. Like, this is the type of red deck which uniquely can wait out a board stall and just kill you when they draw Torbrand.
This is like, okay, because then neither of you play best of 1, right?
No.
This is like the best of 1 Scourge for the record.
Oh, really?
On Arena. Oh,
Really?
Yeah. This is, well, like,
Well,
how
I'm
does
not.
this deck,
I'm not surprised.
Well, I don't know.
actually.
how
I
does
pay
this deck
attention to
lose?
that format.
No one does, but how does this deck supposed to lose in best of 1? You don't have any sideboard cards for it. Yeah, you keep a hand expecting to play against Golos with like murder strategies and stuff, and then they just play like turn 2 Cavalcade, turn 3 Cavalcade 1-drop, and you're like, oh, Jesus, like, I can never win.
Yeah.
He's probably too busy protesting. He just registered this. Man, I love LSD.
Yeah, you can't play best of 3 games while you're in the streets. So
Yeah,
you play
yeah,
best of
exactly.
1 mono red. And
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this deck is fine.
It's
I
the
think
red evolution of our time.
if he gets paired against a bunch of Golos decks, he's gonna smash a lot of people. But my problem comes when you face the Oko decks. I think those ones are gonna give you a really hard time.
Yeah, I think it's close. I think they have to get lucky, actually. I think this is good.
I think it's good, but I don't think it's as good as you think it is.
Well, I don't think it's that good, so I doubt that.
Okay.
But I think it's probably better than all the adventure choices. Like,
I agree with you there, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're not playing Golos, this is the only other deck I would tell you to play.
Notably, though, the adventure decks are not decks you want to really line up against with this one. I think.
Yeah. Or the Knights deck. Like, I think I'd play the Knights deck if I wanted to high roll. But if I had to choose, like, I'd pick a Golos deck or this, because I think this can beat Golos actually consistently, whereas everyone else claims that, oh, my deck can beat Golos consistently, and I just don't think it can.
Mhm.
Especially because not everybody registered Deafening Clarions. There's actually not that many Deafening Clarions. Most of the Golos decks aren't playing Clarion, which is super good for you because getting hit with a lifelink 11/11 Beanstalk Giant is a problem.
Yeah.
But if you can dodge that, then you're pretty good.
Yeah, but you got Tybalt. You just block with that demon.
Yeah, Tibble helps. Also, the green-black decks, yeah, they have awkward, draws where their creatures are definitely underpowered compared to yours a lot of the time.
Yep.
Like Fervent Champion, the green-black adventure decks can't block that card. Basically ever.
Yeah, not early. It's like
Ever. Yeah, exactly. It's going to get damage in.
Lovestruck Beast or bust for a while.
Yep. So if they don't have Lovestruck Beast, I like your chances. The problem is Lovestruck Beast, right?
Yeah.
Like, this deck just doesn't line up well against Lovestruck Beast.
If you have two Fervent Champions, they can pump each other, and then you can Rimrock Knight the one they block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's happened to me.
That would work.
It does work.
Yeah.
Been on the receiving end.
Rimrock Knight, like the art for that card is also pretty perfect. Just some dwarf waving something in your face as it obnoxiously blows you out.
It's been a while since we've seen a mono red deck that doesn't play any burn spells. Hey,
Well, it can't because of Cavalcade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's 4 Cavalcades. That's the burn
Yeah.
spell.
I mean, your burn spell is Bone Crusher Giant. That really good burn spell, by the way.
Oh, yeah, 2-mana shock.
Yeah.
All-star of mono red.
Well, it does
good.
play light up the stage, though. It does play a spell. Well, that card's just nuts, though. 1 mana divination.
Yeah, that card very good.
Whew.
It's like free activation with Cavalcade if you're willing to throw something away.
Yeah, notably as well. I mean, how many decks are playing ways to deal with Experimental Frenzy?
That Night of Autumn we talked about.
But like not many though, right?
No, not that many. It used to
So-
be so common that there was just,
These frenzies out of the board are going to do work.
yeah, Frenzy's really good.
hmm Last up on our list, last deck in the tournament, we have Rakdos Sacrifice,
Shit, right on.
Cauldron Familiar, Mayhem Devil, Priest of the Forgotten Gods,
Interestingly,
Witch's
no
Oven.
Rankle, but I guess you're just going lower because you need to in this meta, so sure.
I hate this deck.
Why?
Look at it.
Do you realize that Angrass Rampage will always pick off a Golos? Unless they have a food token. But why would they have that? And then you can hit the Oko if you need to.
You're right. I don't really know what are you preying on with this deck?
I wonder if it's Goldfish with, I don't know, just playing creatures and attacking is fast enough that it can get the last few points off like Mayhem Devil and sacking some things to pick off Golos decks. Because otherwise, this will dunk on like green-red creatures. This will dunk on probably green-white adventure.
Oh, yeah. It's going to smash those decks easily. Also, this deck is getting the last points of damage with Witch's Oven and Cat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trying to combo them.
Playing 4 Claim the Firstborn.
Yeah, you have Witch's Oven.
Yeah, but like the whole field is Golos.
Right. That's why I'm saying if this deck can get, like, if its draws can push enough damage early that it can ping them out with its other effects against Golos, like if its Golos matchup is serviceable, it will take down a lot of what people are doing to attack Golos.
So I actually think this deck is good, but I don't think that this build is good. Like, I think this archetype is actually quite strong.
What would you change?
Well, I think that playing 1 copy of Chandra is not something I'm interested in doing. I think that that's ridiculous. I also think only playing 2 Priests of the Forgotten Gods is bad because that card answers Golos for you on 5. If they don't have anything else, it also, you need it to combo against the other decks with Claim the Firstborn. Like, that's why it's in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I realize you have Witch's Oven, but I think it's better, and it also can help you drain out versus Golos. I think this deck is actually becoming quite popular online, and I think it's actually not bad. I've seen a bunch of different builds of it. I think it's actually close, like quite close.
Yeah.
Is Claim CMC 3 or less or Power 3 or less?
CMC.
CMC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't get Golos.
That would be nuts.
Yeah, if you could steal their Golos and sack it, yeah, it'd be insane. But no, this deck is actually like fine. I just don't like the number choices. I think Priest is how you like. In what world are you playing 3 Knight of the Ebon Legion? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's got some weird numbers, but I like the idea of, like, the deck has games where it looks very, very strong. And if you think its other games are serviceable, then I like the idea of it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that wraps up the deck list from the Mythic Championship. It's about time to give our predictions. What do we think is going to make the top 4 this weekend?
Am I up first?
Yep.
All right. I think the top 4 is going to be 2 Bant Golos, because there's a lot of them. 1 Fire's Golos, just because Well, I don't know. No one seemed to have a sideboard that I really liked, so maybe not. But I'll throw in a Fire's Golos just because it's kind of around and also, I think, the second best Golos list.
Mhm.
And a mono red, just punking people out with Cavalcade.
Adam, what are you thinking?
4 Golos.
Easy. I'm in the 3 Golos 1 Bant Ramp side of things. I think, yeah.
I think all the Bant decks will eventually not be able to deal with like a bunch of zombies from some Golos player eventually, and that'll keep them out. Even if they overall do well, I think it's just sort of an inevitability that because they're inherently mid-range, they at some point will be kept out because they can't keep up.
My other prediction was going to be 3 Golos, 1 mono red, but Cam stole it from me just randomly.
I'm just putting my faith in the Czech testing house. Those guys know what they're doing.
That's
So
reasonable.
I'm gonna put my money on one of them to make it all the way. But then Bant Golos is gonna crush everyone. There's too many people who think they have a good Golos matchup. They don't.
I agree. I just the deck's so busted, so it just doesn't matter. Like that's why my prediction is just 4 Golos.
Yeah.
Anybody who's not trying to exploit that deck in the first 2 or 3 turns and are trying to do it any other way, I think it doesn't actually have a shot.
Yeah, the only other person I'll accept is LST winning the entire tournament because that guy rules.
That would be
but
sweet, yeah.
Anything else, whatever. Just 4 Golos.
Yeah. I'm also gonna make a bold prediction that Bant Golos is probably gonna take down the DWC organizational this weekend.
I also think so.
Yeah.
I've only seen one deck list. One person has submitted it. Thank you. So based on the number that are registered, I don't think you're right.
All right. Thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic single needs. Don't forget about the DWC organizational this Sunday, October 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sign up now. Link in the description. If you want to support the show, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/DWC Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at DWC Podcast 1 and Facebook, the Disorganized Wizards Club Podcast. And however you listen to the show, whether it's Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, any podcast app, leave a review, rate the podcast, share it with your friends. Everything helps keep this thing growing and bring it to new listeners. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
See ya.